So, when you hear the title Creative Director, what's the first thing that pops into your head? You know, mood boards, slick ad campaigns, just making things look cool? Well, today, we are going way, way beyond that. We're going to dive into the strategic playbook of a modern creative director, and I'll show you how the role is so much less about just making things pretty and so much more about shaping the very heart of a business. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's tackle the big question right off the bat, just to clear the air. What does a creative director actually do? Because I'm willing to bet the answer is not what you think. It is time to bust some of the biggest myths around one of the most misunderstood jobs in the entire creative industry.
First one up, the classic myth that creative directors, or CDs, get to do all the fun stuff. The reality? We do the hard stuff. The job is all about navigating this constant tug-of-war between what the client expects, what the team dreams of doing, and what the budget will actually allow. It's really a masterclass in strategic negotiation. And then there's this idea that a CD is just, a glorified rubber stamp, just sitting back and giving a thumbs up. Not even close. A great CD is right there in the trenches with their team. They are mentors, they are editors, and honestly, they're provocateurs. They're constantly poking and prodding ideas to push the work from just good to truly exceptional. That's final approval? That's just the very last step in a much, much deeper process.
Now, this next one is absolutely crucial. The myth is that the CD has to be the most talented designer or the best writer or the top stylist. But the reality is a CD's job isn't to be the best player on the field, it's to be the best coach. You build a team of specialists who are way better than you are, and your real talent lies in taking their brilliant individual ideas and making them even sharper, more focused, and more strategically powerful.
And here, we get into a really subtle but important shift, moving from just consistency to coherence. Look, consistency is simple, right? It's just making sure the logo looks the same everywhere. But coherence? Coherence is so much deeper. It means that the playful, witty voice you see in a tweet feels connected to the sleek, minimalist design of the product packaging, which also feels connected to the helpful tone of the customer service chatbot. It's about creating one unified feeling no matter where someone interacts with the brand. And this quote just nails the ultimate goal. A good CD isn't just making a single temporary campaign. They are architects. They're building the entire world that a brand gets to live in. Its values, its voice, its personality, the whole shebang. This is the ultimate strategic act, and you see it most clearly when it comes to a rebrand.
A rebrand really is the ultimate test of a CD's strategic thinking. The biggest mistake companies make is treating it like a fresh coat of paint. New logo, new colors, and we're done. But a real rebrand is a fundamental, strategic shift. It's about changing how a brand is perceived, how it's felt, and how it's remembered.
So that brings up the million-dollar question. How do you know when it's time to pull the trigger on such a massive shift? A strategic CDO has to be a great diagnostician. They need to spot the signals that a change isn't just a nice-to-have, but that it's absolutely essential for survival and growth. So let's look at 7 of those key signals.
First up, your core product or service has evolved. Maybe you started out as a budget option and now you're premium, or you've shifted from a physical product to a digital service. If your brand identity is still stuck in the past, you're creating a major disconnect that's holding back your future.
Second, you've just lost your connection to culture. Let's face it, the world moves incredibly fast. If your brand's voice, its style, and its values feel dated and just don't connect with new generations anymore, you're on a fast track to becoming obsolete. A rebrand can be that vital bridge back to the present.
Signal number 3 is when you've basically become invisible in a crowded marketplace. If your competitors are just doing a better job of explaining their value than you are, a rebrand can help you completely reposition, sharpen what makes you unique, and finally stand out again.
Fourth, and this is a tough one, is a reputational crisis. After a major screw-up, a rebrand can signal a fresh start. But, and this is a huge but, it cannot just be a cosmetic fix. To actually rebuild trust, it has to be backed by genuine, deep internal changes and a new, transparent purpose. The 5th signal is actually a happy one. You're getting ready to grow. As you move into new markets or add new products, you absolutely need a flexible brand identity that can work across different cultures and contexts. A rebrand can build that scalable foundation you need for the future.
Number 6, mergers or big reorganizations. When 2 companies become one, you can't just slap the logos together. You need a new, unified identity. Rebranding is the tool that helps you align those different visions and communicate that new, shared reality to the world.
And finally, the 7th signal is just Sheer confusion. If your own employees, let alone your customers, can't clearly explain what your brand stands for, well, you have a serious identity problem. A rebrand forces you to get crystal clear on your story from the inside out.
Okay, so you've seen the signals. You know you needed change. Now what? This is where the playbook comes in. A successful rebrand isn't magic. It's a rigorous, 7-step strategic process.
So, the playbook unfolds in 7 absolutely crucial stages. First, diagnosis. You do a deep dive to understand how the brand is seen right now. Second, redefinition. This is where you redefine your core purpose, your values, and where you fit in the market. Only then, after that solid foundation is built, do you move to step 3, design, where you create the new look and feel. Step 4 is testing, where you validate these new ideas with actual people. Then comes implementation, a super carefully coordinated rollout across every single touchpoint. Step 6 is communication, telling a clear story about the change, both inside and outside the company. And finally, monitoring, because a brand is a living thing that needs to keep evolving.
So really, when you boil it all down, the job of a creative director is fundamentally strategic. Whether it's the small, daily act of mentoring a designer to make an idea just a little bit sharper, or the huge task of rebuilding an entire brand's world, it is always about turning business goals into a coherent, compelling, and creative reality.
And that brings me to a final thought for you. Now that you have this strategic lens, I want you to look at the world around you. Based on all those signals we just talked about, which brand out there do you think is most in need of a strategic rebrand, and why?